Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark DeSalvo. I'm the elected town moderator. Welcome to the special town meeting of the town of North Andover, first established in 1646, and I call to order this special town meeting. I'm going to beg your indulgence tonight. We have a lot of people, and the preference is to have everybody who is attending the meeting to sit in this room so they can take full advantage of all of the benefits of being in this room. So if there are single seats next to you anywhere on the floor, as of this moment, the front row is now open. Rush to get it if you'd like to get a seat with a back. And any spaces in the bleachers, please slide over for the benefit of your neighbors. I'll give you 30 seconds to take advantage of the seating areas. Honestly, if there is a single seat next to you on the floor, raise your hand so people can take advantage of that, please. While we're doing that, we have a rather large crowd. I'm delighted by that. And your attention and safety is of my paramount concern. I point out that in this room, the emergency exits are at each corner of the room, and as well at the top of the visitor bleachers are gates that lead to other exits in which you'd walk up to that balcony if you chose to exit in that direction, and then walk downstairs outside. Under no circumstance, henceforth this moment, should anyone sit in the aisles. Sir, I see somebody sitting in the aisle. You're going to have to move. You may not congregate there, and you may not stand in any circumstance in any aisle space, either on the floor or in the bleachers, all for your own safety and for the benefit and pleasure of the conduct of the meeting. All of the counters and public safety officials have been deputized in order to assure that order takes place and this public safety obligation is fulfilled. Happier notion now. Each year I try to highlight a contributing and deserving part of the fabric of our community. This year, the North Andover Public Schools are celebrating the 10th year of Building Respectful Communities initiative and the Raise Values. For those of us who have had children in the school system, we're very, very familiar with those values. The acronym stands for respect, achievement, inclusion, service, and empathy. And these are the 5 values that students in our school system learn and are expected to demonstrate in North Andover every single day. Tonight, it is my hope and expectation that we too can focus on demonstrating respect, inclusion, and empathy, especially as a community and to all of our neighbors, no matter what our opinions happen to be. As the Raise Values say specifically, I'm going to quote, "We will value respect. We will think about others before speaking or taking action. We will appreciate the contribution of others while showing respect for ourselves and other people. And as a community, I challenge us all to take the lead of the lessons that our school children have inculcated themselves in their behaviors and as outlined by the Raise practices and standards. I promise you that they are embraced by every single person who has ever graced the stage, will yet sit or stand here, or hope to do so, or sit in your seats in the most important office in our town, that and those of you with the title of citizen. Joining us is a group of students, if you'd all flank me, I'd appreciate that, who represent the values that we all will be demonstrating today. They are Paul Gitana, Ian and Adam LaRochelle, Ava, Paul and Alexis Iannicello, Charlie Camerata, and John Philbin, and I want to afford them the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And for those able and willing to stand and join us, I invite you to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, come up and lead us. Go ahead, Star. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. That was fun, wasn't it? Hey, Paul, how are you? Nice job, Nicola. Thank you very much, John. No, totally. Thank you all, and thank you, boys and girls. I appreciate your participation. If you'll allow a personal courtesy, it's important that I recognize several of the individuals who sat on this stage 8 months ago who have retired from service to our town. So I'd like to acknowledge Planning Board member Lynn Rudnicki and former Finance Committee Chair Bill Callahan. Thank you each for your service to the community. New to this stage are Planning Board members Jennifer Burns-Luz, Eitan Goldberg, and Christine Allen in differentiating roles as members of the Planning Board, in addition to which my two new appointments to the Finance Committee, all sitting in the front row here on my left, and they are Ed McMillan and Chuck Trafton. Thank you each for your service. The simplified rules of parliamentary procedure are published in the town warrant and are now familiar to those of you who have come to town meeting and to those of you who took the time to read the warrant and understand what we're doing here tonight. I invite you, they'll be scrolling on the screen as I speak. I invite you to pay attention. I'm going to briefly go through some of the more important ones germane to our interest tonight. The rules generally remain the same. Briefly, they require that one must, when speaking, come to a microphone, state your name and your address, and speak directly through the moderator to the remainder of the meeting. There is a 3-minute speaking rule. Time remaining is indicated in the countdown clock, and you should stop when the time reaches 0. In isolated cases, I have and will use my discretion as moderator to extend time for the benefit of informing the meeting. I ask that all speakers refrain from all citizens, refrain from inappropriate responses to speakers. After all, we're all neighbors, and we're going to pay attention to the raised standards along the way. I will reserve the right to allow questions as a priority, should we have a long line of speakers, and counter opinion to be heard no matter what article we are discussing, so as to better inform the meeting and have as much balance as reasonably possible during our discussion. Each speaker has the affirmative responsibility to disclose if they or an immediate family member, including in-laws, has a conflict of interest or personal financial interest of any kind in an article on which they are addressing the meeting. The consequence of not doing so or refusal to disclose whether there is a conflict when asked shall result in the revocation of that person from speaking to this meeting. Remember, you act as legislators today. You are the legislative body of the town of North Andover's government. I have sworn an affidavit that I have no conflict, none whatsoever, on the matters before us this evening, and have taken no public position on any of the articles. In an abundance of caution, I will make you aware that 11 years ago, my wife, Patricia Melvin, had a 3-week business engagement and relationship with 1600 Osgood Street, has not had one since, has no responsibility or connection to the issues in front of us this evening or in the future. In addition to which, again, in an abundance of caution, through an investment fund that I have responsibility for as a caretaker and owner, I have a very small investment in the cannabis industry. That investment is in the state of Oregon. It is limited to the state of Oregon. There is no infection, connection, or any crossover into the state of Massachusetts, period, never mind the matters in front of us tonight. And in no way does my awareness of the industry affect or impede my ability to fairly and impartially conduct this meeting. All town officials have the responsibility, and appointed officials, have the responsibility of disclosing at the time that they speak that they are speaking in that professional capacity. And we can assume that those here on the stage are speaking in that capacity once they make the initial disclosure. Speaking of the stage in the front rows, here displayed on the screen is a chart of the town officials and those joining to help me in the conduct of this meeting. They will introduce themselves when and only when they have the occasion or need to speak. I'm grateful to the citizen advocates on the screen, Attorney Kevin Foley and John Fooey, as noted. They are available to assist citizens with town meeting problems, and if you need to be directed to them, any of the counters, or you can find them or other people who can help immediately to my left here at the tables with the 2 computers on them. Additionally, Attorney Foley will act as deputy moderator and is acting, as I understand it, as deputy moderator in the auditorium at this moment in time. And Attorney Fooey will act as deputy moderator in the cafeteria, should in fact that be necessary. Do I hear objection to their appointment? None given. Thank you very much for your courtesy. Continuing our innovation of past years, we will in fact continue to allow remote questions to be brought into the room. We have a team. They're noted on the screen. If in fact we can keep the stage directory up, please. Chris, is the stage directory up? Thank you. We have a team, the remote question team, who is responsible for vetting all of the questions, if and any, come in during the conduct of this meeting. Those that came in prior to this meeting have already been vetted. You should know, of course, that questions from the members of this community in this body take precedence. I've always believed that town meeting has 2 constituencies. Those of us here in the room who make the decisions, and those of us, the 30,000 of us in our community, for whom we make the decisions and how they are affected by it. But all the power is in this room, and you alone have the ability to vote and to make motions. I have a couple of advisories. I've spoken with all the petitioners, and we've met as a group quite collaboratively. It's been a very respectful and mutually respectful relationship. And they've asked and pledged to allow affirmative motions to stand and not present amendments that are defensive or frustrating in nature, and allow each of the articles to stand as is. That said, any citizen can make an amendment, but we'll advise that it may cloud the issue, and I suspect a significant majority of us in this room have already made up their minds. It's been the tradition and practice of our town meeting to hear from those who can help inform our meeting, who are considered, quote unquote, strangers, not citizens, but are agents or technical experts who are available to us. They don't happen to be sitting in the room at the moment, but if in fact they are necessary, they'll be called in, and they will have the affirmative obligation to declare they not being a registered voter. It has been a decades-long practice to allow such. I'd like to continue that. Do I hear objection? There is none. Thank you very much. We will be taking hand counts this evening. Accordingly, we have many counters in a well thought out and prepared systems. We ask simply that you raise your colored voting card with your banded hand when the time comes to vote. You'll be instructed when to do so and when to put your card down. There are 2 counters in each section. They may know each other. Some may even have a position on some of these issues, but we've been careful to make certain that if there is a declared position on an issue by one counter, the other counter has the opposite declared position. Will the counters please stand at their stations? I'd ask the counters in front of this meeting to raise their right hands and swear and repeat an oath after me as you see fit. I, please state your name, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will perform my duties tonight as an appointed vote counter at this town meeting for the town of North Andover, and do so faithfully and impartially, without any reference to my personal position on the matters to be addressed, and to the best of my ability, all in accord with any and all applicable general laws, bylaws, and the procedures adopted by this meeting. Thank you each. I appreciate it a great deal. Please know, as you may have heard from me already, it is my overriding obligation to conduct this meeting in a fair, open, and efficient manner. Respectful commentary and questions are always welcome. Spirited discussion is expected tonight, but only when it adds to our collective knowledge base. Intemperate remarks, disrespectful behavior, ill-mannered demonstration will not be tolerated. The symbol of a moderator is a gavel. And many have said to me prior to this meeting and tonight walking through the halls, Mark, I hope you have a couple of gavels in store and in spare behind you. You'll be banging it all night long. I have to share with you that in my 6 years as moderator, I've never held a gavel in my hand. And I don't have one tonight. And I don't expect to have to use one. All that adorns my podium is a bottle of water, a few books, and some notes, and a pen. In other words, I trust you. I trust you. I now recognize the Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Phil DeCollegiero. Excuse me.
Mr. Moderator, Phil DeCollegiero, 75 Meadow Lane, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I move that this meeting dispense with the reading of the warrant and with the reading of the constable's return of service of that warrant. I further move that the moderator not be required to read articles of the warrant verbatim, but be allowed to refer to articles by number and by subject matter or as displayed on the screens, and further that the amendments need not be read but are to be voted upon as displayed or otherwise provided in print to the voters in attendance.
Motion made. Is there a second? I will allow a voice vote on this motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The motion so carries. Thank you. The rest of the night will go as easily, I pray. We will deal with Articles 1 and 2 together, and similarly Articles 4 and 5 together. It's my intent that we'll discuss these articles for up to an hour of time, and then we'll take the measure and temperature of the meeting at that time. This, by the way, as an arrangement, has the support of all parties who are principal motion makers and who have presented articles. Do I hear a motion for Article 1?
Moderator Gerald Salisbury, 301 Johnson Street.
I think we need to have your microphone on.
How's that? Better?
Much better, sir.
Okay. This Moderator Charles Salisbury, 301 Johnson Street. I move adoption of Article 1 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second to that motion? The motion is made and seconded. We're now going to hear from Mr. Salisbury and a group of other people for the next 12 minutes. The clock will start when he begins to speak, and I wish your kind attention to him and all other speakers. Mr. Moderator.
Not quite. Ex-moderator, maybe.
You never know. You might get called up.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator and fellow voters. My name is Charles Salisbury. I live at 301 Johnson Street and was born to North Andover parents before living most of my life in this town. This evening's town meeting is perhaps the most important debate for this town about who we are and what we value. I will speak for about 4 minutes and be followed by Wendy Wakeman, a mother, writer, and former selectman, and then by Dr. Michael Connolly, a long-term resident, parent, practicing physician, and a board-certified pain specialist and anesthesiologist. Each have similar time constraints. So that we understand the significance of yes and no votes on the 6 articles before us, let me recap. Articles 1 and 2, I'm looking for a slide. There we go. Articles 1 and 2, somewhat dismissively referred to as citizen petitions by some town officials, are in fact identical to articles brought by officials in towns similar to North Andover to their town meeting and voters and overwhelmingly approved. A yes vote would add to our town bylaws a restriction to prohibit all marijuana-related commercial activity within North Andover. A successful vote would also significantly shorten our evening, as future articles would have no meaning if Article 1 is successful. Article 2 would apply the same restriction within our zoning bylaw, seems unnecessary, but is strongly recommended by the Commonwealth's Attorney General for a town to consistently deny optional commercial marijuana activity. For the contrary position, Articles 4 and 5 would permit commercial non-medicinal marijuana in a specific location under the regulation of the Planning Board. I'm here to encourage you to vote yes on Articles 1 and 2 and no on Articles 4 and 5. The other Articles 3 and 6 will be more appropriately discussed when votes of earlier articles have been made. Passing question 4 on the November 2016 election ballot changed several things. In Massachusetts, it removed criminality from the use of non-medicinal marijuana. It is now possible to have some, use it on private property, grow some, and no longer break state law. However, that same ballot question provided for each city and town the ability to limit or exclude commercial, non-medicinal marijuana enterprises within the community by a vote. Several towns acted quickly, putting questions on their spring municipal ballot and introducing bylaws at their spring town meetings last year to prohibit marijuana commerce. Not so in North Andover. When it became clear that our town leaders did not intend to introduce the option of prohibiting commercial non-medical marijuana activities, many citizens gathered signatures on petitions last fall to ensure that the option would be available to us at any future town meeting. So here we are. Article 1 is written, uses bylaw language prepared by Copeland and Page, a well-respected municipal law firm for many cities and towns. The language has been approved by the Attorney General multiple times for different communities. The picture before you lists the communities who have enacted similar bans already as of last October. Many of them are our surrounding neighbors, and the list keeps growing. There are Massachusetts communities, mostly west of Worcester, where the introduction of a newly legal agricultural crop would be welcomed. Not so in the greater Boston suburbs, where a skilled professional workforce raises its families and is concerned with the message such activity conveys. Why would our town leaders, selectmen, manager, planning board, behave differently than those of other similar towns in protecting North Andover? I've asked that question directly and not received any satisfactory answer. But it's not difficult to see that they are being endlessly lobbied and persuaded by a very well-funded consortium intent on having its way with Osgood Landing. The drumbeat seems relentless, starting prior to last year's Springtown meeting, where the consortium was disappointed, up until the current moment at every selectman and planning board meeting in between. The well-funded consortium has hired former town officials, good people, to carry their water, and they've also produced slick promotional material touting questionable medical research and never mentioning recreational marijuana cultivation, which is where the real profit motivation lies. We should thank God that our current town officials cannot be bought by the well-funded consortium, or they would surely try. To the owners of Osgood Landing, I can only suggest that you owe this town a better proposal for the use of this facility. Please bring us a use worthy of our community and your reputation. After all, your success is also our success. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Wendy Wakeman. I live at 140 Academy Road, and I'm a former selectman. Article 1 is clear. If I can have my Article 1 slide. It regulates only non-medical marijuana business. Similar bylaws have been adopted in scores of communities. It does not prohibit adult use of marijuana, farms for medical marijuana, or medical marijuana research. Passing Article 1 will mean no growing for-profit marijuana in our town. Next. The size of the facility being proposed tonight is unprecedented. Earlier this month, a new facility in Canada billed itself as the largest grow facility in the world. At 800,000 square feet, it's a lot smaller than the 1.1 million square foot pot factory we're talking about tonight. It's huge, that's certain, but what's uncertain is everything else about this project. Nobody knows how property values will be affected if North Andover is home to the state's biggest pot farm, although common sense says housing prices will go down, not up. Their estimate for the number of new jobs seems high too. That Canadian facility, if you take their boast of 200 or 300 jobs and account for the differences in size, you still won't get halfway to the 1,000 jobs the proponents promise. But the biggest uncertainty of all is the regulatory environment for the marijuana industry. Federally, marijuana remains illegal. It's the wrong slide, but we'll just go on. Under the previous administration, federal authorities turned a blind eye to marijuana trade. That policy changed and risks have increased dramatically. Currently, only one bank risks doing business with pot growers. Marijuana industries are in clear and present danger of becoming fully cash operations. That enormous facility translates to a whole lot of cash and a whole lot of pot, all in one place. It's the setup for a fantastic heist movie. It's a real public safety concern, and I don't want our police to have to choose whether to enforce state or federal laws. Yes, a state law passed allowing a commercial marijuana trade in Massachusetts. The regulations governing that trade will be issued in just a few weeks, but today, right now, there are no rules for how it will operate. If we can go back to the host community slide. What if we rezone the property tonight and ownership changes? What problems might we face because we trusted the folks we knew before knowing the rules of the game? You've heard about this host community agreement. In this environment of conflicting state law and no regulatory guidance, that deal is indeed in doubt. A call to the Cannabis Control Commission last week confirmed that it was negotiated in a gray area. There's no guarantee it will hold. Still, the town leaders who drafted it believed the promise of a pile of cash is a fair exchange for the risk. We're here tonight because the proponents couldn't wait a few months for Springtown meeting. They couldn't wait a few weeks for the state regulations to be issued. They couldn't wait, so they forced us into a midwinter special town meeting when they hoped the zoning change could quietly pass while no one was looking. That failed, obviously. Why did they rush our process and set this debate into the middle of all this uncertainty? Because being first in a new market is good business for big marijuana money, but it's bad business for us as a town. Stepping into the marijuana trade now is just not worth the risks. Next, vote yes on 1. It's the surest path to stop the commercial pot farm now.
My name is Mike Connolly. I live at 481 Ray Street. My wife Heidi and I met here in high school, and we raised 4 kids here. I speak tonight as a doctor and a father who has come to a grave conclusion about the consequences of hosting a commercial pot production. How did I come to my conclusions? As a doctor faced with any problem, I have to stay calm and be sure I don't hurt anybody. I spend a lot of time studying evidence so I know what to do for my patients. I took that approach here and asked myself 2 questions. First, will more local kids smoke pot because of the message we send hosting a pot farm? What did the evidence tell me? Yes, with certainty, more of our kids will smoke pot. Let's look at some of the evidence. The war on drugs in the 1980s was very effective in education, and as the perception of risk increased, the use of pot decreased. Unfortunately, when the efforts ended, the perception of risk went down and the use went back up. This is 40 years of very powerful data that says lowering the perception of risk leads to more use. No big surprise that Colorado is #1 in adolescent use with staggering numbers by 12th grade. Adult pot smoking is also up, contributing to a lower perception of risk as well as other problems. The good news is that, like politics, attitudes are local. In states where marijuana is illegal, use has remained low. A study of teenagers in Montana found marijuana use lower where people did not vote to legalize marijuana. Your vote matters. Knowing use would increase led me to the second question: is marijuana bad for them? What did the evidence tell me? It's horrible for them. Marijuana use changes their brains in very dangerous ways. Let me share with you some of what I found. First, the risk of addiction before the age of 21 is 17%. That means for every 6 that try it, 1 becomes addicted. Second, it damages the brain. As the brain develops from middle school to age 21, it is growing more skeleton-like connections. Marijuana has been clearly shown to interfere with the development of these connections. This is especially important in the executive function area in the front of the brain that controls critical thinking and motivation. The damage it causes leaves some parts of the brain smaller. The result? Students who smoke pot regularly have lower grades than those who don't. Moderate pot users are here in green, moderate drinkers are in red, and others are in blue. Pot is different, plain and simple. Not thinking so well leads to more accidents, more visits to the emergency room, and more admissions to the hospital. This evidence should worry all of us. More pot use causes more people to die in car accidents. Here is a summary of what I found. The evidence is strong. Let's recognize evidence shows pot to be a gateway to other drugs. Animal brain experiments clearly show how pot changes the way the brain responds to other drugs. In practical, real terms, if an adolescent uses marijuana and then has their wisdom teeth removed, there is an increase in the risk of addiction to the pain medication they get on the way home. You need to understand that. In summary, if we host commercial pot production, the evidence predicts more of our kids will smoke pot, and evidence predicts the tragic consequences. There are times...
Dr. Connolly?
10 seconds.
Please.
There are times we are defined by saying no to temptations and distractions in order to say yes to the one thing that matters more. Article 1 is that thing. Say yes. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. Under rules of procedure and practice, we now move to the stage to hear recommendations, if any. And remember, we're discussing Article 1 and 2 together from the stage. And I first turn to the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Moderator, the Board of Phil DiCollegiero, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, 75 Meadow Lane. The Board of Selectmen spent a great deal of time debating this issue this past fall, and we have a competing article, Article 3, and so as a result, we have recommended unfavorable action on Article 1 to proceed with ours to Article 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the Planning Board have a recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Eitan Goldberg.
I think you need to move in much closer to the microphone.
All right, thank you. Eitan Goldberg, 57 Glenwood Street. The Planning Board likewise recommends unfavorable action. The Planning Board, as I hope we'll hear later on, has crafted a bylaw over a significant period of time, and that would be Article 4, which we feel strongly regulates the new use of commercial marijuana, that it puts into place significant regulations, protocols, a special permitting process, and when such a process can be done safely and a use can be regulated, that is the preferable land use action rather than an all-out ban on a new and burgeoning industry. So the Planning Board recommendation was for unfavorable action.
Can you give the vote of the Planning Board?
Yes, the Planning Board voted 3-2. The Planning Board has 5 members. The alternate also would have voted as unfavorable action, but the official Planning Board vote was for 3-2 unfavorable.
Thank you very much. If I might remind, we need to put the clock on every speaker, please, at the 3-minute level. Thank you very much. And now, as the Finance Committee, as I understand, has an opinion that they'd like to relate.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Tim Shearhart, 283 Campbell Road, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Town of North Andover Finance Committee as the committee chair. It has been the committee's long-standing practice not to take a position regarding zoning articles presented to town meeting that are made to facilitate development of commercial property. However, given that the articles presented at this special town meeting could have a tangible financial impact on our community, we feel obligated to address the current and future financial outlook of the town from the committee's perspective. The information below is intended, this is in the writing, information below is intended to provide the citizens of North Andover with a better financial framework in which to consider when voting this evening. North Andover's finances are currently on solid footing as evidenced by our AAA bond rating, reserve fund policies and actual reserves, and prudent fiscal management by our government officials and employees. Currently, the town projects revenue to grow 2.9% on an annualized basis over the next 5 years. This 2.9% growth allows the town to maintain town and school services with incremental improvements. However, this 2.9% growth alone may not allow the town to achieve its longer-term strategic goals, including, but not limited to, reducing classroom size to best practice levels stated by our school committee's directive. We currently rank 19th largest student-teacher ratio out of 406 school districts. Renovating the middle school and elementary classrooms, addressing our $109 million OPED liability, and appropriate upgrades or replacement of municipal buildings such as the Salem Street Fire Station without straining our debt service to revenue goals. These are examples of potential future costs that our town will be challenged to meet in a timely manner with our current commercial and residential tax base. Therefore, the Finance Committee feels it necessary to express to our fellow citizens that we strongly believe our town requires additional revenue resources in the near term to achieve the collective goals of our community. We encourage careful consideration of the anticipated economic and financial consequences your votes will have tonight in addressing both our community strategic goals and committed obligations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. By agreement, we're going to the folks at Osgood for a 3-minute rebuttal / presentation. Please, Mr. Leary, introduce yourself and start the clock when he starts to speak.
Thank you, Mr.
Trying to
Moderator.
give you every second possible.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Could I please have slide number 2?
My name is Dan Leary, 26 Andover Street. I am a consultant to the Massachusetts Innovation Works. I'm a lifelong resident, a former member of the Finance Committee, and a very proud father of 3 little kids. What you see in front of you is a big, empty building. This building has always been about innovation. Over the last 10 years, my teams and I have built 2 world-class companies from the floors of that building. I was in the middle of launching my 3rd company when I was asked by Dr. Goldstein to help pull together the plan for the Mass Innovation Works. My first response was mixed. The last time I had to think too hard about marijuana was while I was serving as company commander in the Army, managing the mission and welfare of 240 troops. Fast forward a decade, and it hits me. There is a large, illicit, and underground industry already in our backyards. And just over a year ago, Massachusetts voters said enough, fix the problem by establishing a legal, regulated framework with safe access to patients and adults over 21. And by the way, tax it so that we can better fund programs to keep marijuana out of the hands of our youth and the portion of the population at risk. You may be concerned about North Andover's brand and scared by the statement that this will be the pot capital of the world. No. GW Pharmaceuticals is already operating a much larger facility just outside London. In fact, Freetown is already permitted for 1 million square feet of approved site here in Massachusetts. At 843,000 square foot of cultivation space, MIW will be a large cultivator, and that will quickly become the norm for this emerging industry. The mayor of North Adams understands this. That's why he's supporting MIW's first medical dispensary and has issued a letter of non-opposition. If you still have an open mind about this, and I really hope you do, tonight we'll take every opportunity to get the facts straight and to answer your questions. For example, why now? What's so timely about this deal? Why would a professor at Harvard Medical School want to engage with MIW research? Why would the world's largest supplier of horticultural LEDs lights want to move into the old Bell Labs building? What's the team's experience? If the town's articles are defeated tonight, will that make North Andover a drug-free community? What compelled Andover to vote down a ban last night to allow all marijuana uses in their town? Please vote no on questions 1 and 2. Don't be scared tonight. Be inquisitive.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody else wishes to speak? Please come to the microphone. Ladies first.
Karen Blake, 15 Caroline Way. I'm a 6-year member of the Finance Committee and a retired lawyer, but tonight I'm speaking to you as a private citizen. What's the first thing that you are going to ask and you think of when you're going to move and pick a new town? What's the first thing you're going to ask about that town? How does the school system stack up? It's just that simple. A good school system keeps your property values stable and growing steadily. That preserves the value of your investment in your home and helps you build equity. Real estate tax overrides produce the opposite effect. Property values can fall. If we want a competitive school system with low class size, system-wide, improve downtown, replace municipal buildings that need it, we may need a tax override. In the not-so-distant future, as we deal with the middle school, farther out, the high school, plus the town may have to borrow money on top of that by selling bonds. You have a one-of-a-kind opportunity tonight to secure a multi-million-dollar revenue stream for the town and keep overrides and borrowing to a minimum. I have heard half-baked, pie-in-the-sky, and overblown to describe this opportunity. Not so, in my opinion. This is a well-financed, well-developed, forward-looking business plan offered by a business entity capable of producing the income revenue in question. No cannabis will be sold in town. I urge you to take advantage of this rare opportunity and vote no on Articles 1 and 2, and yes, on Articles 4 and 5.
Thank you. Sir?
My name is Gerald Brecker. I live at 488 Pleasant Street, Mr. Moderator. I would say that I was impressed by Dr. O'Connell, who I think has provided enough medical evidence to be concerned about the effects of this proposal on the future of adolescents as well as younger children in the town. The notion that we're setting an example of saying what's okay, and that will influence younger people, I think is something that we need to keep under consideration. I'm also concerned about the notion that, oh, it's okay, it's going to be regulated by the state. The state also regulates casinos, and right now they sank their future into the hands of Mr. Wynn, and we know how that's working out. And they investigated Mr. Wynn in great depth with the state police and private investigators and all that. So I would say that the notion that the state regulation will be enough to protect us is highly questionable. Further, the notion that funds from marijuana will go to marijuana prevention is probably not true also, because that was supposed to happen with the tobacco funds that were won in various lawsuits against the tobacco industry, and all that money has gone into general funds and has vanished. No effort was made to use it for what it was intended for. So I think the notion that all this is going to just go according to the way it's written down on paper is highly questionable. And I really do think that the elected officials in the town do owe us a response. This is a town that voted against the legalization of marijuana in 2016 by a substantial majority. This very same question was voted down at town meeting last spring, not 8 months ago, and now it's here again. And there are people on the board who voted one way or expressed themselves one way then and are expressing themselves a different way now. It was not a unanimous vote of the Board of Selectmen, and I think those who voted for this now, and this highly irregular, bringing this up now 8 months later, owe us an explanation. And the fact that they've been asked and won't give an explanation is troubling, and I would think they would welcome the opportunity to explain their thinking to the town meeting. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, please, you're eating into our hour. When a request is made of another citizen and or elected official, there is no obligation by that party to answer under any circumstance. In this case, the chair of the Board of Selectmen has indicated that he wishes to answer the direct query that was made by Mr. Brooker.
And Mr. Brooker, I appreciate the question. Again, Phil DiCollegiero, 75 Meadow Lane, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. We have been meeting and discussing this issue at length since last year's town meeting, and it was one of, for me, and I will allow all of my colleagues an opportunity to answer, but for me, this was simply a direction that I took away last May when we met. 900 residents gathered and voted on this topic, and they did vote it down, but that's because it required a 2/3 majority, and 58% of the residents who voted that evening said that they wanted this, and many of those who didn't said that they wanted more time to review. And so when the opportunity came up and the planning board presented this article, I, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, was happy to cast my vote for favorable action, and we will learn, hopefully a little bit later this evening, more about that article. But for me, I want to see this site back up and running. I want to see that productive site put to use as a 30-year-old resident in this town. For me, I don't really remember Western Electric. For me, Lucent has always represented an underutilized building that I'd like to see put to use for our community and for our family. And for the record, I am a father of 3 young ladies in this town and a lifelong resident myself. So thank you. I will pass to my colleagues.
Thank you, Regina Keene, 412 Massachusetts Avenue. I concur firstly with what Chairman DiCollegiero said regarding the percentage of the people who voted in the last town meeting. It was not a 2/3, but it was a majority. So I think that that signifies a shift in the thinking. Also for me, the legalization of marijuana opens an enormous business opportunity in Massachusetts, estimated to be over $1 billion. The revenues from this industry won't just be generated from people getting high. It will come from cultivation, manufacturing, research, and innovations that come with any new industry. So in this case, research that can benefit people who are suffering, research that can benefit our ability to ensure public safety. And we have to remember that that kind of research can only be done when companies have access to recreational marijuana. So some towns in Massachusetts will benefit from this new industry and others will not. Towns that allow cultivation, manufacturing, research, and innovation will benefit from the new jobs, taxes from new businesses, and host community agreements. But those benefits are not going to be around forever. There's a first mover advantage for new businesses. And that's why I think now is the time to allow that kind of business in North Andover. And that's why I'm recommending to vote no on Article 1 and 2.
Thank you. The request was made of those who voted in the affirmative on the Board of Selectmen. Do any other members wish to? Yes. I guess all 4 of them wish to. Okay.
Chris Nobley, 317 Hillside Road. And again, I will echo Chairman DiCollegiero and Selectman Keene's statements. True, there are unknowns and there are also no guarantees. And absolutely, the work that's been done by the Planning Board, I appreciate that. They've worked very hard. But we have to look at this decision tonight with courage. There was an intense discussion and participation that shaped the bylaw in Article 3 and the proposed host agreement. We need to have the opportunity to talk about that tonight. Each one of you represents folks who could not attend. You're ready to vote publicly, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. That takes courage and effort. A sense of opportunity. Much has been debated about the bylaw and what it might bring tonight. But please remember, tonight's vote is about a zoning change, not the legalization of marijuana. Nothing can be built or implemented without vigorous special permitting process led by our state and our town. The third, pragmatism. The easy thing is to say no. Some folks don't like or disapprove of certain businesses, liquor stores, drug manufacturers, defense contractors, and yet they've historically been welcomed. To say no because I don't like it is not fair to the North Andover of the future. It's a lost opportunity for significant revenue to the town, and it's a lost opportunity to be a leader in research and medical innovation. So our solution, to our children, discussing the dangers of cannabis is no different than discussing those of alcohol or prescription drugs. Each one of us wants to make our message clear and consistent with our own moral compass, and I applaud that. We have an opportunity, or challenge some might say, because of the proposed project. But let's face reality. Living in Massachusetts in and of itself means our state and our community endorse the use of cannabis. Marijuana for recreational or medical use is now legal in 60% of the U.S. population, and the trend is growing. Georgetown has a medical dispensary. Andover just opened the doors to retail distribution. So our debate is not about if, but how. In 10 or maybe even 5 years, what is consternation today could comfortably be part of our fabric tomorrow.
The best
Mr.
opportunities.
Nobley, time's up.
30 seconds, sir.
Time's up. 5 seconds.
All right. The best opportunities are defined by what we don't necessarily know. I think it's time for North Andover to step up to the challenge of opportunity. Thank you.
I believe, and I believe last, Mr. Melancourt.
Technology. If anyone wants to hold up the red card, when I get to 3 minutes, I won't be.
And I want to know it was done deliberately that way, so not too many people would speak.
Okay,
So,
well, it didn't work.
right.
I'll tell you that. I just wanted to make a comment. Last year at town meeting, I did vote no for Article 9. Article 9 was the zoning bylaw to allow medical marijuana at 1600 Article Street. And I did so for very specific reasons, and I stated it at that meeting last year. I said I was not against the business and what was going to be produced in that factory. I was not comfortable with the zoning bylaw that was being presented at that time. I was also not comfortable with the amount of due diligence that was done to investigate the water usage, the smell, and other very pertinent issues that were presented at that time. I felt back in May it was rushed. We were still getting changes to the bylaw the day before town meeting, and I think I very clearly stated at the meeting that that is why I voted against it last year. This year, I feel that the due diligence has been done. The planning board has worked very hard to put together an article, a zoning article that protects the town and describes a very specific special permitting process that addresses things like community impact, water study, security measures, the transfer policy of marijuana, waste management reporting, energy and environmental standards reporting, odor analysis, construction management plan, just to name a few. The planning board's done a lot of work over the last 8 months to get it tonight an article that will very much protect this town and also allow for a use that I feel would be beneficial to the town. I have spent 21 years, or I did spend 21 years of my life in that building at 1600 Osgood Street. I lived there as an engineer, a young engineer, working for AT&T, and I did see the economic benefit that that facility had in the surrounding communities. I saw every day sandwiches, pizzas, things coming in from people that worked there from surrounding businesses. There was a true economic impact from the workers in that facility. I remember one distinct story. Back in 1992, AT&T won a prestigious quality award called the Malcolm Baldrige Award. And at that point, and a lot of you in this room probably remember that, but at that point the company gave us all jackets, gray jackets. They weren't very attractive, but they were all the same. And I think the first time I really got the impact of the economic benefit of that facility, I was in Market Basket, and walking around Market Basket, I saw the number of people wearing those jackets. And it was just incredible to think that that one facility had such an impact and with so many people's lives. I'd really like to see that come back again. I'd like to see that building. I know, it's not what we all want, but I think it's what we have before us. I don't think we're going to see any manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing coming back there. It's just not coming forward. So I think this is what we have, and I'd really like to see that building brought back to life and revitalized with both manufacturing, research and development, and high-tech industries. So, thank you.
We'll go to the floor, and I think we're on this side. The query was not made of you. I'm sorry. Please.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Kolpinski, 19 Little Road, North Andover, Mass. I've lived here for over 50 years, not afraid to tell my age. My parents also grew up here in North Andover. I know the town quite well. I work currently in Lowell, and I asked the policeman who works at our middle school, what does he feel about the issue? And he says, well, there's a plant in Lowell currently on the corner of Tanner and Lincoln Street. And he went, ha, you can smell it. And I thought, oh, really? I said, how big is the plant? 2 football field size. I said, well, the one that they're proposing in North Andover will be 19 football field sizes. So the concern about a smell is valid. It is real. They smell it in Lowell. I do not think that the folks that are developing this have any obligation to give any jobs to those of us who live in North Andover. I think we probably ought not think that way. Lawrence, whose name was up there recently, in this past May, they approved an ordinance, and I would like to know if we could approve an ordinance similar. And it says the operation of all types of marijuana or cannabis establishments as defined by General Law 94G1, including marijuana cultivators, marijuana testing facilities, marijuana product manufacturers, marijuana retailers, marijuana dispensaries, marijuana laboratories, or any other type of licensed marijuana-related business is prohibited in the city of Lawrence. So I would like my question answered when I'm done, but can we have something like that here, a vote like that, that will say once and for all, no, we don't have to keep coming back here. In 2016, November 16th of 2016, North Andover did not vote for legalization of marijuana. 7,573 voted yes, 8,596 voted no. We did not vote for it in the state thing. I don't know why we're here tonight, quite frankly. These things that I got in my mailbox, there is no mention of the fact that 15% of the establishment will be devoted to medical marijuana, which I think we are all in favor of, but that 85% of it will be for recreational marijuana. I believe that the folks at Osgood have not publicly mentioned this on these papers that they sent to my mailbox. I feel that they have not been forthright and completely transparent. Transparency means a lot in today's world. It is what we put our trust in. If someone is transparent, we trust them. If they're not, we do not trust them. It makes me...
Excuse me, if I might interrupt. We'll be very careful about ascribing any notion of impropriety against another party unless we're wholly certain of that.
Thank you.
So I want to just ask people to recognize.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay. I think we've been a town for 370...
Well, if you are done, thank you very much.
Mr. Moderator, Jim LaFawn, 329 Osgood Street, and I would like to speak in favor of motion of Article 1 and 2, and I'm opposed to Articles 4 and 5. But my biggest concern is the way that this has been handled. And I don't want to make it any more contentious than it is, but I do have an opinion that the selectmen have abrogated their responsibility as the primary policy makers in our town. I've been to a selectmen's meeting or two. I've been to a few of the planning board meetings, and I don't understand why, even tonight, they've got a 12-minute lobby in favor of the article, of their articles, and their zoning article, Article 3 and their zoning articles 4 and 5. But the fact of the matter remains, I've asked the question, where is the analysis of the cost of doing this to North Andover? I asked specifically at a meeting, and I've still not got an answer. Where is the position paper from our chief of police, our fire chief, our assessor's office, our board of health, our superintendent of schools? Where are the papers giving their professional opinions on what the social impact and economic impact of this facility is going to be on our town? They've either been... There's not been one word mentioned about the cost, and everyone knows there is a social cost. There's a social cost with tobacco. It's there with alcohol. We can't rewrite time and go back and completely start over with those issues. But we do have a responsibility to completely vet, this particular facility that's being brought before us. And I don't see where that's been done. I did call around to a few of the department heads myself, and I got some answers, but again, no professional opinion papers out there, and I'm wondering why the Board of Selectmen chose to only look at the $5 million nickel bag that they've been proposed. Thank you.
Please. Sir.
Good evening. My name is Andy. I've worked with Father.
I'm sorry,
Tom DeLorenzo.
sir. I need your full name and your legal address.
Sorry. My name is Andrew Thomas Rayner, and I live on 11A Concord Street in North Andover.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. And I've worked with Father Tom DeLorenzo, and I currently work with the FPOs, the Franciscans of the Primitive Observance. Father John Carapi said that there was once a cocaine shipment. I know it's cocaine, but I'll get back to that. There was a cocaine shipment, and as the boats were docking, there was a satanic priest putting curses on.
Sir, you'll forgive me. I ask you to remain germane to the question in front of us.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to that.
You'll get back to it now, or you will not speak any longer.
I understand that.
Please go forward.
Okay. Well, we don't know. We don't know what this space is going to be used for.
Thank you very much. Mr. Licciardelli.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Thomas Licciardello, 99 Middlesex Street, and I'm a contracted advisor with the Osgood Revitalization Coalition. I've been a resident of North Andover for 58 years. I went to school here. I taught here. I raised a family here. I served as a selectman. I have grandchildren in our schools, and I run a business here. At the Maytown meeting, I spoke in favor of this project, but we missed approval by, I believe, 42 votes. And there was a very good reason it failed. Not because of its merits, but that the team didn't adequately alleviate the concerns of the planning board, Board of Selectmen, and especially the town residents. Too many unanswered questions. Well, Jim Xenakis and I, the two of us served as selectmen back a few years ago, were contacted by Dr. Goldstein. Though we are of different political persuasions, we always worked well together. Well, Dr. Goldstein got the message. He knew a better job of education was required, and he knew, with our kind of long history of town engagement, we were uniquely positioned to reach out to our diverse networks, and we have worked tirelessly for 7 months to make sure factual information was heard. Based on tonight's turnout, I think we probably did a pretty good job getting people here. Back in May, my enthusiasm was based upon the terrific economic potential this project could deliver through the revitalization of this once vibrant property. I still am. And the economic benefit is now even greater. But for me, what became as important was the vision of Dr. Goldstein to use the income from the sale of cannabis to fund the Innovation Center. Nobody else is doing that. And herein lies the opportunity for North Andover to become known as the host of a world-class think tank developing medical and engineering advancements, an incubator for startups making amazing breakthroughs. This is something about which we all can be proud. It's time to make history. It's time to be bold. It's time to fearlessly grab the 21st century opportunity and be a leader in this fast-moving world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Moderator, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Ken Chisicki. I'm at 81 Bonnie Lane, and I have been a resident of North Andover for 40 years. I have 4 grandchildren between the ages of 13 to 17. I am here tonight to share some compelling scientific evidence with you, but before I do, with a show of hands.
Sir, you'll engage me and not the audience. There will be no show of hands.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You can understand this is my first meeting.
You're more than welcome, and we all get to learn a lesson. Thank you.
I'm grateful for that. Thank you. So, I wish to share some compelling scientific evidence. And I want to point out that my passion is health care. For over 4 decades, devoted to improving patient outcomes at major hospitals in Boston. I am opposed to having this marijuana facility in our town because of compelling, well-supported scientific evidence that shows that all addictive drugs, including marijuana, have especially harmful effects on the adolescent brain. And this, as we know, is still undergoing significant development. What does this mean to us? It clearly means that kids aged 13 to 19 are at risk. These are key findings that I am quoting from the Surgeon General, 2017. Also, a study at Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard Medical School, shows that even casual marijuana use is linked to brain abnormalities. This research shows effects of small-time use, meaning 1 or more joints, can cause brain damage. Some adolescents and young adults only use marijuana to get high once or twice a week. You know, people think a little recreational use shouldn't cause a problem. That is, if someone is doing okay with work or school. The data from Mass General Hospital says this is not the case. Everyone, this is my firm opinion, that no amount of money is worth the suffering of one child compromised by marijuana. And that's why I'm here. This is not the legacy we want for our kids.
Thank you very much. Time's up.
Thank you.
I would encourage everybody to note that your applause steals time from those people that you might be thinking you are supporting. Sir.
Mr. Moderator, good evening. My name is Albert Manzi. I am a resident of 72 Foster Street, North Andover. I'm a lifelong resident. I've been in North Andover since the age of 12. I'm a proud member of the class of North Andover High, 1970. I'm father of 3 and grandfather of 6. Thank you. I want to state for the record that I am testifying tonight as a private citizen. My disclosures are as follows. I am a law enforcement professional. I am the vice chairman of the North Andover Conservation Commission, and I have a security consulting business that may do business with the revitalization project in the future. Those are my disclosures. I remember when Western Electric, then Lucent, closed. When that happened, the town lost its anchor tenant taxpayer, which caused financial turmoil at that time, which I'm sure many people in the room will remember. And it caused what seemed like an endless line of tax override requests. We now have a viable opportunity here to anchor down an emerging growth industry, which will be secured by a 20-year host community agreement to benefit the town. I was at the Board of Selectmen meeting on January 22nd. I listened to every speaker at that meeting. I was impressed by a presentation of a fellow taxpayer with significant financial knowledge who stated how much the town in years going forward are going to need the additional revenues from this plant. I also listened to the Board of Selectmen vote unanimously to issue a glowing performance evaluation to Town Manager Andrew Mailer, who I feel he richly deserved that. And I agree with the evaluation. Andrew's doing a great job. And what I want to say to the town and to the voters here tonight is, let Mr. Mailer and the Board of Selectmen do their job. Let them negotiate a host community agreement. Town Council has approved it and is reviewing it, reviewed it and approved it. We need to let them do their job. We need to take the emotions out of this, and we need to look to the future with this emerging growth opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Susan Papalia, 61 Coachman's Lane.
Welcome.
My husband and I moved with our family here 50 years ago. My husband was transferred. He worked for AT&T, and he was going to be the manager in Lawrence on Common Street. We knew we didn't want to live there, but we looked in Andover and North Andover when we found the house that we liked in North Andover, and we fell in love with the town. I believe that this project, I'm not in agreement with it at all, because I've been a realtor for 40 years. Most of the properties I sell are in North Andover, but I sell in Andover as well. I work for William Ravis. And when people come, and the relocation people come, they always ask about the town. And I'm very proud of North Andover. And many times people thought they wanted to live in Andover, and I said, well, we have Merrimack College, and we have Brooks School, and it's a wonderful community. I know the school system isn't rated as high as the Andover, but it has a lot to offer, and you get more house for your money in North Andover than you do in Andover. And I feel that I want these people in Osgood to do well, and I know they could find something else, but I think the values of North Andover property will go down dramatically, because when someone comes and they have young, formative age children, and they say that it's the largest pot-growing producing plant in New England, maybe even in the country, I don't think it's good for our town. We're just not that kind of a town. And I think the marketing group for the seniors, and I'm a senior as well, my husband also has announced the North Andover football games for 30 years, and people in Haverhill can hear him. That's how things, and so the fumes that this girl told me that were in Lowell, I go by Boston Cake Factory, and I can smell it. And I don't think it's a good idea to have it, because you could have the fumes, and it just doesn't fit in with the character of the town. And I believe that the housing values will go down if we allow this to happen.
Thank you very much. We've had, as I told you, it was my intent, when a matter of fact presents itself, to allow a refutation or not, as the case may be. I'm going to allow a very short period of time for Mr. Leary relative to one query.
Relative to one query, so there was two queries made, Mr. Moderator, with
You're
respect
allowed,
to
please.
odor and to appraisal. Can I ask that our subject matter expert, Ed Wadsworth, and Mike Thornton, please come down?
So allowed.
So if we could go to, please, slide 21 of our deck to address odor. Odor is an integral part of indoor agriculture, and what's important to understand about the way that this project will be constructed is, unlike what we believe is built in Lowell, the facility at Osgood will include a building within a building. That building within a building construction integrates what's called a closed-loop mechanical system. This system will have extensive scrubbing and filters associated with it. So unlike greenhouses and other type of construction, which might have odors that will escape, this will not happen at this project. And I think my engineer is running across the school right now because he's in a different room. Finally, and most importantly...
Okay, maybe not, sorry.
He looks more like a real estate appraiser than an engineer.
Right.
But, so at any rate, so to conclude that statement, finally, the process of securing a special permit will include a very strict regulations that will state, and you'll see in Article 4, that odors cannot be smelled anywhere outside the facility, and that will be bonded as the result of the special permitting process. So next, what I'd like to discuss is the response to the appraisals, and I'd like to ask Ed Wadsworth, who's been commissioned as a consultant by our team in recent months, to explain an appraisal that he did and summarize his conclusion.
And he has a minute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am a stranger. I live in the South Shore community of Duxbury.
Use your minute. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was commissioned to undertake an impact study as to whether or not there would be any negative, positive, or no impact on real estate values as a result of the repurposing of the facility. I did extensive examination of studies that were done in Colorado, and the reason for selecting Colorado was the fact that they passed medical marijuana legislation in 2000. They passed legalization of recreational marijuana in 2012, and so you have a baseline before and after the passage of that legislation.
Sir, do you have a conclusion?
Yes, I have a conclusion that there would be absolutely no effect on value.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, that's my responsibility, not yours. Please.
There would be absolutely no effect on value of industrial, commercial, and that includes retail and office space, and residential property within the area that I studied, and by extension, the larger community.
Thank you, sir. I believe we were on this side of the aisle before we allowed the technical experts. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jennifer Watson. I live at 30 Huckleberry Lane in North Andover. I grew up in North Andover, and my husband and I have returned to raise our children in this town. I have read the research presented by Dr. Connolly, and I agree, and I believe most of the people in this room agree, that marijuana effects on the adolescent brain are very dangerous. And it is my position that opening the largest one of the largest recreational marijuana cultivation centers in our town, in our state, implicitly sends a mixed message to our children that recreational marijuana use just isn't that bad. But given my perspective, I set out to really understand what the benefit to the town is. And what it comes down to is I seem to see that there are two possible benefits. One is the vision of the R&D Innovation Center, and one is the direct financial payments to the town as part of a host community agreement. And the more I dug into this, the more I find that these are very far from certain. Taking the Innovation Center first, there are a few things that make me believe that this long-term vision is just a vision and is very likely not to come to the fruition that has been described by the advocates. First, since the federal government classified marijuana as a Class 1 substance, any researcher accepting federal grants may not participate in research with marijuana. That eliminates all of the Boston hospitals that are currently investigating cancer treatments and all of these medical treatments. They may not participate in this. Neither will the top universities in our state. So that is eliminating a very large segment of the research community from participating here. In addition, you might believe that the federal government will make this, declassify this as a Class 1 substance, but even Dr. Goldstein himself said that when that happens, all the research is going to go to the hospitals and to the academic research centers. So what does that say about the long-term vision for this project? Finally, when it comes to the direct financial payments to the town, the regulations governing host community agreements and licensing regulations are still being written. They are not certain. In fact, for recreational licenses, the Cannabis Control Commission has stated that the contributions to the town are limited to impact fees. So looking at all of this uncertainty and looking at all of these factors, I don't see the upside to this program for our town. And I strongly oppose the Osgood project, and I urge you to vote in favor of Articles 1 and 2. Thank you.
We are just about at our hour clock. Sir.
Thank you. My name is Kianish Poria, and I live in 77 Bruin Hill. I've heard a lot of reasons to prohibit the introduction of marijuana industry into our community. While I do not dismiss these reasons, they mostly reside in the realm of conjecture. By these reasons, we should not be building any roads in our community either. Roads bring cars. Cars are dangerous, causing accidents, endangering children, and possibly bringing the wrong elements to our community. Yes, yet we still build roads. Why? Because we surround these supposedly dangerous elements with regulations. Roads have speed limits, directions, and community servants to regulate them. The same logic applies to what we are voting on today. I stand here in front of you, father of 2 girls and a precocious boy. I fear how I will help them understand the moderate use of alcohol and cigarettes. Marijuana will be something that I cannot prohibit from them, so I hope that I can teach them about its moderate use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've exceeded our hour. I ask if we wish to continue. Please, please, please. I'm going to extend this for another 20 minutes or so. And then we'll take the temperature once again. I will, excuse me. I understand tempers. I understand you're sitting on hard seats. But let's be courteous to each other, please. So we're going to continue this. I'd like to close off the line, and perhaps maybe we can limit people so we can get things more quickly through to 2 minutes, if you don't mind. And there will be precedence for those who actually have a question rather than a comment. We'll go to this microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're very welcome.
My name is George Hadzianis. I'm a new North Andover resident at 48 Regency Place.
Welcome.
I am an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. All of us should be scared, worried, concerned regarding the comments made by Dr. Connolly. However, I'm not scared, I'm petrified. As someone who's actually put people to sleep for the past 10 years, I've had patients who take marijuana and I've had them have hallucinations, I've had them have seizures, I've had them have hypertensive crises afterwards that I've had to give rescue medications to. The facts that Dr. Connolly mentioned are all absolutely true. What he didn't have time to mention was that because this has been an illegal drug for the past 100 years, the facts that we have are probably actually worse because we have no actual real long-term data regarding any of the effects of marijuana 20, 30, 40 years down the line. So the facts are probably even worse. A vote of no, okay, or a vote legalizing, allowing this plant to actually happen, since, as has been mentioned multiple times before, a message to our children that this is okay. We do know that research has showed that our children, my 2 daughters and my son, are more likely to try this stuff when we're growing it next door, okay? What price, you know, the only thing that people say is that this is going to help us financially. So what price is it that we actually sell out our own children? Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Laura Yvonne Steinman. I live at 179 Hillside Road.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here today. I don't smoke, and I'm here because I appreciate how organized that the Osgood Project has been in portraying all the information going into this project, from online to social media to pamphlets to actually going to the site to really understanding the project. I'm a big social media user, and I've noticed that when I was online looking at the project and seeing the Citizens for a Drug-Free North Andover, that I tried to write information, and that I was blocked from the site, and I noticed that a lot of other people were blocked from sharing information. So anyway, I just want to say I appreciate Osgood sharing their information. And then I also want to share that, that cannabis has done a lot for people in my immediate family who've been suffered with cancer, also very good friends who have MS, and a lot of veteran friends I know who struggle with PTSD. So I'm voting no for 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Dick. I live at 10 Andrews Circle and lived here for 18 years. I'm going to go fast because I have a short amount of time. We're talking about cannabis, also known as marijuana, also known as hemp. Here's a few things you want to know about hemp. Hemp is nature's most versatile plant. Hemp is humankind's most useful plant. It can be used to make 25,000 products, including food, paper, fiber, rope, textiles, livestock feed, bioplastics, medicine, and recreation. A little bit of history. The Declaration of Independence was written on hemp paper. The first U.S. flag, sewn by Betsy Ross, was made from hemp cloth. Thomas Jefferson was quoted as saying, "Hemp is of the first necessity to the wealth and protection of the country." There are dozens of American towns who are so intertwined with hemp, they are named after hemp. They include Hempfield, Pennsylvania, Hemp Fork, Virginia,
Sir, we get the points. Okay. Say Germain.
Okay. These communities were not afraid of cannabis, and neither should North Andover be afraid of cannabis. Medical marijuana can be used, as we mentioned, to treat glaucoma, insomnia, PTSD, cancer, stimulate appetite, arthritis, epilepsy, migraines, Parkinson's. My most important point is for chronic pain and the opioid epidemic. Some people have made the point that marijuana will make that epidemic worse. It's absolutely the opposite. Sufferers of chronic pain now will have a safe, I repeat, safe alternative to opioids that have killed more than 200,000 Americans since 1999. Lastly, regarding the message we send to our children, the wrong message to send to
Sir, time is up. Thank you very much. Please.
My name's Helen Canyon, 54 3rd Street.
Welcome.
I'd like to yield my place to Selectwoman Rosemary Smedili.
Highly unusual, but allowed. Please.
Mr. Moderator, Rosemary Connolly Smedili, 65 Green Street, and I'm a sitting member of the Board of Selectmen, but I am the minority vote against this project. Thank you, Helen, for yielding your time to me. I speak before you to talk about who we are as North Andoverites. We are a community that protects our open space. We are a community that builds ball fields and parks. We are Patriots Memorial Park. We are McAvoy Park. We are Carl Thomas. We have hiking trails, Little League parades. We are sheep shearing, 4th of July on the Common, holiday parades. We run road races to raise money for our seniors. We teach our kids to swim at Stevie's Pond. We love apple picking, hay rides. We build youth centers, senior centers, and homes for our veterans, and homes for our families who need a leg up. We raise money to send our kids to youth camp, to buy sports equipment for kids whose families cannot afford it. We teach our children not to use drugs, not to drink, and we teach our children to be respectful of all and follow the rules. We are a college town, home to a world-renowned prep school. We love our home, and we love the community that we are in. We are the home to the first published poet, Anne Bradstreet. We are one of the oldest towns in the country. We have the oldest farm in continuous operation.
Excuse me, I'm going to pull rank and allow you the full 3 minutes as a matter of courtesy. Please continue for another minute.
I'll be quick. I'll shorten it up. We are the home to a governor, a surgeon under George Washington, first poet master general. We celebrate sports teams, our dance schools, and most of our graduates attend great colleges. We have great teachers, police, fire, and other town employees. We are a proud community. We are the envy of many other towns with our AAA bond rating. This is our brand.
We should not be changing our brand to the home of one of the largest marijuana growing facilities around. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Andrew Furman. I'm an 11-year resident at 5 Crossbow Lane. We are a great community, but we also have one of the highest teacher-to-student ratios in the Commonwealth. Ladies and gentlemen, some have suggested that North Andover will become known as Pot Town, USA. I beg to differ. In December 2016, a 1 million square foot cultivation facility was approved in Freetown, Massachusetts. I've never heard Freetown referred to as the next pot capital of the world. Nearby, our neighbors in Georgetown have 2 cultivation facilities. Very few people are aware of that. Some people are concerned about the access our youth will have to marijuana. As a father of a 6- and 8-year-old, I share that concern, Mr. Moderator. Nobody here is advocating for the use by minors, and in fact, recreational use under the age of 21 is still illegal. I too fear about the choices my children will make as it relates to substance abuse. And that is why it is important to support this project. Ladies and gentlemen, any one of us can obtain marijuana in the next 15 minutes. It is simply that easy to obtain via the black market.
Please,
the Just Say No campaign in the 1980s was a massive failure. I believe proper education is a better strategy. I believe regulation of cultivation and distribution is a better strategy. In the bylaw, our planning board, led by Mr. Simons, has put together, provides adequate protection for our town. I believe I not only support this project for the much needed financial benefits that our Finance Committee has indicated, but I also support this project for the innovation. There is a company by the name of GVW Pharmaceuticals that has a drug fast-tracked through the FDA that seriously limits the amount of seizures in childhood epilepsy. That drug is, in fact, fast-tracked to be approved this June. Those are the reasons I support this project.
Furman.
I ask you to join me. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, I'm sorry, your time was ceded to another party, so we're going to go to the person behind you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Karen Davis, 38 Putnam
Ladies and
Road.
gentlemen, please. I'm sorry, would you, for the record, I didn't hear your name and address.
Karen Davis, 38 Putnam Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's clear that there's a room full of people here that love North Andover. And whether you grew up here or you moved here, it seems like a place that people want to stay, which is why I feel compelled to stand here tonight to share my point of view. I want North Andover to be a place that I want to stay and my children want to stay 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. I want to share a little bit of a different perspective. There's been a lot of technicalities shared here, a lot of sentiment around the benefits of marijuana and the benefits of the financial promises. But my point of view is one of taking a step back and having a broader perspective and envisioning what this could look like if we pass it tonight. In my opinion, if we pass this tonight, we are heading down a future that starts down a very, very slippery slope. It is a future that will entail easier access for all of our children to marijuana. Despite all the efforts that we're going to put in as parents to educate them, it puts it at their fingertips. It's also a future that's going to naturally attract more recreational drug dealers or distributors, whatever they're called in the legal world, to our neighborhoods. And for me, the most important fundamental fact to keep in mind is that this is about business, and business needs change. Everyone here tonight is voting based on promises or information based on a point-in-time perspective, point-in-time data, point-in-time promises. And it does not guarantee that when the business need changes, when this is no longer the greatest thing for the state of Massachusetts, that our town is not going to start realizing the realities of that slippery slope. And when mass innovation
I'm
works,
sorry, ma'am.
changes,
Time.
we will have no leverage left as a town.
Thank you very
So
much.
please encourage you to vote no.
Thank you. A 2-minute statement, and I will take priority for a question. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. My name is Kim Cooperstein, and I live at 133 Colonial Ave. My husband is a consultant for the project, and I do support it for all the reasons that have been put forth today and throughout the campaign, but also for a personal reason. My family is a reason for the passion behind this project and for my husband's getting involved. I have 2 young sons in the schools, in the public schools here. And our 10-year-old cousin has intractable epilepsy, defined by the University of Rochester Medical Center as a seizure disorder in which a patient's seizures fail to come under control with any treatment. Basically, the child's seizures cannot be controlled with medication. My little cousin's life is not like the other 10-year-olds he knows, or the regular life of a school-age boy that he used to enjoy. He spent a lot of time in hospitals due to his illness, including a month-long stay in the Children's Hospital, during which he suffered a stroke and thereafter needed to relearn to walk and talk again. He has been med-flighted to Boston after he stopped breathing in a seizure. He's been placed on life support, and he's been on 8 different anti-epilepsy medications over the last 12 months, remaining on 3. I observed one of his seizures while dancing with him at a celebratory family function. He and I were dancing together, and he just went down. I called for help. He seized for longer than 5 minutes, then it was longer than 10 minutes, and he continued to seize while we watched him being taken away from the party. It was terrifying to witness. You feel helpless, watching, waiting, and unable to do anything. And I observed just one. This little boy and his family have endured from January of 2017 to December of 2017, over 150 seizures. The longest period of time he went being seizure-free during that year was 3 days. But thank goodness times are changing.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just have one more sentence.
You have 5 seconds.
Okay. He started taking cannabis-infused essential oil, and today, he is 31 days seizure-free since starting the oil at the beginning of this year.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. John Guiney, 30 Ironwood Road, North
Welcome.
Andover. I work in the financial services industry. I sit on the board of one of the largest community banks in Florida. And the question I have, maybe a little technical tonight, as it's stated, this is a Class 1 substance regulated by the federal government. It's illegal. You can't bank this. You can't deal with it. And I have a question for the town council and maybe for the finance committee. Will this inhibit our bonding, given that we will be dealing with an illegal business? On the bank board that I sat on, we went through this discussion, and that was one of the critical items that everybody just glossed over. This is still illegal from a federal perspective. All cash moves through federal entities that are regulated by the federal government. There's a high likelihood that we may not be able to get bonding because we will not be able to say we do not engage or relate with people with illegal activities at the federal level. I'm not talking for or against, but is the town prepared and have they done the work to understand whether our interaction with this federally illegal action will jeopardize the town's finances through its inability to get bonding?
So there are 2 questions I will answer on behalf of town council. That in fact we are advised, town council and special town council have made it very, very clear to us that it's properly before us. We have the right under law to consider the articles in front of us, pro and con, that it is an allowable use by state law, and town meeting, you should know, is not a constitutional arbiter. If challenged on the matter, and it's debatable whether or not it will be challenged, but if challenged on the matter, it will be decided by ultimately someone in a black robe. And each of us gets to make a judgment based on the information that we believe important. But it is a matter entirely appropriately before us. The second question was relative to the bond interest or bond counsel and ratings, correct? And I'm going to invite 1 or 2 of both parties to make a comment, either Mr. Manager or the chair of the Finance Committee? Do they wish to? Thank you.
I cannot expressly respond. I would not have asked bond counsel or a bond rating agency specifically that question. I can tell you anecdotally, as part of a conversation with the bond rating review that was done this past week, and they were talking about, what other kind of economic development opportunities have happened in the town. We did communicate that we had a town meeting to discuss how cannabis would be handled from a bylaw and zoning perspective. Again, it's anecdotal. They didn't provide a specific response and say, don't do that. But they also didn't say, go get them. They didn't provide any response as to whether or not that decision would affect our bond rating. I would have made some assumption that they would have cautioned us if that was the case, but I have no legal opinion from bond counsel as to whether or not this decision would affect our bond rating.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to the next gentleman. Thank you very much for your query.
Good evening. My name is Daniel DiFilippo.
I'm sorry, we need to start all over again.
All right, let me adjust that. My name is Daniel DiFilippo. I live at 47 Sutton Hill Road.
Welcome.
I want to thank you all for your hard work, and I want to thank everybody for coming out. Every American who's voting, I respect you, and thank you for being part of this process. First, I could go into how medical marijuana helped my uncle in his brain tumor. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save that for the woman behind me. I could talk about all the financial benefits and the millions of dollars and the extra teachers and the extra firemen and the extra police that we can hire, but I'm not going to do that. I want to talk about the Innovation Center. I'm in business school at Suffolk, down the street in Lawrence, and one of our classes is about clusters, and I had no idea. I was like, what is this cluster F that I'm taking and I'm paying for? I want math, I want biology, but come to find out, in innovative businesses, they start with innovation, and they start with a little bit of risk. But if you got a hip replaced, there's a doctor in Indiana where all the medical knees and hips, 90% of them came from Indiana because that's where the doctor lived. And that's what this Innovation Center can be. It can be the beginning of testing, of research. We're talking about scientists, professionals. The benefits to the community is unbelievable. I'm going to cede the rest of my time to the woman behind me. She's got a much more captivating story.
No, we will not extend additional time to the person behind you.
Thank you. Then, in my last 30 seconds, please, everybody, I ask you to vote no on the first two articles. Thank you.
Thank you. Eli Adleroth, 114 Beverly.
Welcome.
I'm a resident of North Andover. I am a licensed mental health clinician. I work with kids in the Massachusetts foster care system in cases of severe abuse and neglect. In my second job, I work in mostly emergency rooms, seeing patients in acute crisis situations. So the clients that I work with on a daily basis are affected by addiction. I think it's a mark of the privilege that we all share in a town like North Andover that it took till 8:32 to hear the words opioid crisis. I think this is a really difficult issue. There's a lot tied up in the question of marijuana. Certainly not enough time to get into it in 1 minute and 21 seconds. But I am not an economist. I'm not an environmental scientist. I am a social worker. I'd like to make 3 points about public safety and public health. The first is marijuana is bad, alcohol is worse. Sorry. Didn't print today. Okay. By any statistical measure, alcohol has stronger correlation to sexual violence, domestic violence, family violence, community violence, which is not to even talk about the health issues, liver disease, etc. I think a lot of people have raised the question about messages that we're sending to kids. How many liquor licenses? Well, this is a rhetorical question that I don't need answered, but I would wager about 50 liquor licenses have been granted by the town of North Andover. So what message does that send? Second point I'd like to make is that research clearly suggests that when marijuana is readily available, alcohol use goes down. Longitudinal studies have proven that medical marijuana has been tied to lower traffic fatalities. While there's still empirical data coming out about Colorado and Washington with recreational marijuana, it's been reported that beer sales have been down, even in Colorado, I know. The third point that I want to make is that marijuana is not chemically addictive, and I see I'm out of time, but
sorry,
thank you.
sir. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katie Caldwell. I live at 253 Hickory Hill Road. I'm 18, I'm a student at NAS, and I'm a medical marijuana patient. I use it to treat my chronic pain disorders that include fibromyalgia, allodynia, endometriosis, to name a few. I used to take heavy level opioids to help treat my pain, and they had detrimental side effects. I was always sleepy, I was so depressed, my life had very little quality to it. But when I turned 18 in September, I got a medical marijuana card, and because of that, I now have a part-time job where I can stand on my feet for 8 hours. I couldn't do 2 hours this summer. And I no longer take any pain medication or any anxiety medication. Medical marijuana has pretty much allowed me to be a successful person. So hearing all these stories of people saying that youths that smoke marijuana are failures and their lives are wasted, I'm a National Honor Society student. I have a 4.0 GPA, and I'm a medical marijuana patient. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. So I'm not some lazy stoner. I'm productive. I have a job. I applied to colleges, and I've got into everything that I've applied to so far. So by opposing this article, you'll not only hurt me, a young woman with a promising future, but also thousands of other residents who will benefit from the research and cultivation of medical marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the line is cut off. We have 15 people in line. Sorry, Mr. Salisbury. Excuse me. I'm going to ask your gentle counsel. We can listen to the 15 people who have stood in line for an extended period of time, and we can give them 1 minute apiece. I will, in order to move the question, I'll need a motion to do so, and I'll do it by voice vote. I don't hear the motion. We're going to listen to the next 15. I'm sorry. The next outburst, you'll be invited to leave the venue. Thank you. I have a motion to move the question. It is not debatable. We're going to do it by voice. Please. It is benefited of the people in this room. Why don't the people in this room have the right to decide when to cut off debate and when to allow and sir, you are exactly right, and that's why the motion was made and will be heard to determine if the debate will be cut off. The motion has been made. It's made by Mr. Simons. It's been seconded. It is not debatable. All those in favor of the motion to close debate, please say aye. Those opposed? And we have a report from the other room of similar nature, so we are going to move to the question. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please. We will vote by hand count. What that means is you'll be asked to raise your red card with your banded hand. We have about 2,662 registered voters in the rooms, I should say, including the auditorium, as of 8:41 this evening. You're not required to vote, but you're invited to vote. We will first move to an affirmative vote, so when I announce it, I'll ask you to raise your hands. The counters will tell you when they're ready to have you put your cards down, and then we'll move to those who are against the article that was moved. Again, we're talking about Article 1, which should be on the screen for just a moment while people are voting, please. While we're waiting for that to happen, I will tell you that the moderator, this moderator, has made a judgment in my 6 years not to vote. I will only vote to make or break a tie. So I invite you to be decisive and not afford me the opportunity to make or break a tie. Are all the counters ready? Thank you very much. For those who are in favor of Article 1, please raise your right card with your banded hand and leave it up until told otherwise. While we're counting, for those of you, I've made an error, and it was my obligation to disclose that, in my opinion, certainly a majority and more than a 2/3 of the audience voted to move the question. So we'll just put that on the record. Thank you. So, okay, everybody's done? Okay, who are the counters here? Who's the counter in this section? I'm sorry. Who is the counter in this section?
So you can lower if you choose.
Excuse me, the town clerk will be the counter in this section.
Okay.
Please count the votes. And town council. Yes, second. Larry counted.
Oh, okay. Three. We'll do section one.
You tell people to put the votes down. No, you're the stage. You're the stage? Yeah, you're not section one, you're the stage.
Okay.
Cover that okay for you, Larry? I'll cover that okay for you. Yes, we're good. The town clerk said you could bring your hands down. I apologize. Yes. Yes. What's on the screen? What's on the screen? Suzanne, you doing okay? Yes. Yes. How many sections do they have there? In the auditorium? Somebody needs to tell me when to stop. Is the key. Yes.
We're still counting right there.
I understand that, but in terms of numbers of sections.
Yeah.
So if you could find out how many reporting sections there are. I still see people with hands up in section 8. Are we all done? Okay, I'm told we're all done in the other room as well. So we're going to hear the vote count of those in favor. When I call out each section, the counter will loudly declare their votes. For those in the auditorium, the counters are coming, one counter is coming here to the front of the room to record their vote. I'm inviting you all to the front of the room, all the counters who are recording. We're going to do it in order, so organize yourself if you don't mind. Okay, section 1. Section 1.
71.
71. Section 2.
50.
50. Section 3. Thank you for winding your way up here.
77.
77. Section 4.
94.
94. Section 5.
171.
171. Thank you, sir. Section 6.
Good evening. 155.
155. Thank you. Section 7.
47.
47. Section 8.
Section 8. 117. 117.
117. Thank you. Section 9.
121.
121. Section 10.
75.
75. Section 11.
46.
46. Section 12.
73.
73. Thank you, sir. Section 13.
33.
33. Section 14.
51.
51. Thank you. Section 15. I'm sorry?
76.
You're reporting?
From the auditorium.
Check that. So you're reporting section 14 is 51.
Yes.
Section 15 is?
76.
76. Section 16?
42.
42. Section 17?
45.
45. Section 18? No. Section 18? Ah, yes.
36.
36 in section 18. Do we have any other numbered sections?
Section 19 from the auditorium.
Section 19, hold on a moment. We're going to add that. Section 19 in the auditorium.
40.
40. You have other?
No.
Thank you very much. The stage. Section stage.
3.
Section stage is 3. Section registration. Those are our workers out there, folks.
7.
7. And the cafeteria has none because there is nobody in the cafeteria. The quickest vote that we have. And if they are, you're going to have to move somewhere else, folks, because I know you can see and hear me. So 1,430 voting in the affirmative. We'll now go to those who vote no. Please raise your hands. Same. Okay, if we pause down, guys. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we good in the other room? Okay. We're ready to reveal votes. For those who are against Article 1. And I'll invite section number 1. Come on up, Mr. Smith. Nice to be in the primo spot, huh?
34.
34 voting no. Section 2.
52.
52. Section 3.
35.
35. Section 4.
24.
24. Section 5.
82.
82. Section 6.
132.
132. Section 7.
68.
68. Section 8.
96.
96. Section 9.
116.
116. Section 10.
52.
52. Section 11.
41.
41. Section 12.
96.
96. Section 13.
26.
26. Section 14.
43.
43. Section 15.
60.
60. Section 16.
37.
37. Section 17.
51.
51. Section 18.
46.
46. Section 19.
55.
55. Thank you. The stage? 8. And registration? 1. And cafeteria is still mercifully at 0? And the calculation? One second. Allow me to declare the vote. Allow me to declare the vote. 1,430 voting in the affirmative, 1,155 voting no, about 55% affirmative. The motion on Article 1 passes. We will now go to Article 2. We promised that we would discuss both articles. Yes. Excuse me. Thank you very much. I must inquire if the people making the request for reconsideration voted in the affirmative. Thank you very much. A motion for reconsideration is allowed. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. A vote for reconsideration is allowed. Sometimes it's made because people legitimately wish to reconsider the matter. Other times it's a defensive circumstance. If you vote, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. If you vote yes, we will reconsider Article 1. If you vote no, we will not reconsider Article 1. I think I can do this by a voiced vote. All those in favor of reconsideration, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed to reconsideration, please say no. I have a similar report from the other room, and reconsideration is denied. We have business to attend to. I now need a motion under Article 2.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I would move that Article 2 be referred to the Planning Board for further study and not dealt with tonight.
The motion is made and seconded. If you give me a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready. We have some important business to do, and you might wish to hear this for those who are streaming out. The motion was made to refer it to the Planning Board, Article 2. It is a proper motion. It is not debatable, and it requires the affirmative vote of a majority of the members of this meeting. I am going to risk taking a voice vote on the matter. Are we clear? An explanation means that instead of we considering Article 2 tonight, the matter will be referred to the Planning Board. The Planning Board will come back to us if they wish to. If they wish to. So that is the judgment in front of you, and we're ready for a vote. All those, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, okay. Fair point. I want to make it clear. Your vote on Article 1 stands. So by referring it to the Planning Board, it doesn't change Article 1, it doesn't override the ban, it simply defers potentially to a future town meeting to the judgment of, is that not correct, Mr. Salisbury? Is that not your intent?
It's Article 2 you're talking
Article
about.
2,
right.
yes.
Yeah, Article 2 is a restatement of Article 1
yes.
within the Planning Board zoning bylaw, and it is my request that rather than act on that tonight, we refer it to the Planning Board for further study.
Yes.
Which means it is not on this night's agenda.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion. It's proper before us. I'm going to take a voice vote. All those in favor of deferring action on Article 2 and referring it to the Planning Board, please say aye. Aye. Those who are opposed, please say no. Okay. I believe that it's a no vote, but I'm going to go to account on the matter. So all those, the moderator could make a judgment, and then any 7 people can get up and doubt my judgment. I suspect 7 people would doubt my judgment, so I'm going to go right to a hand count vote. So those who are in favor of deferring the matter to Article 2 to the Planning Board, please raise your red card. Okay, folks, are we ready? No? I still see hands up in section 8. Are we good? Thank you.
Could we have this explained? Oh.
Okay, are we ready? Counters? Okay, counters, I think that we're ready. We're going to record all those who are in favor of referring Article 2 to the Planning Board. Section 1.
58.
58. Section 2.
27.
27. Section 3.
52.
52. Section 4.
41.
41. Section 5.
99.
99. Section 6. 115. Section 6 is 115. Section 7.
45.
45. Section 8.
Section 8. 88.
88. Thank you very much. Bet those numbers. Section 9.
70.
70. Section 10.
60. 60.
60. Section 11.
33. 33.
33. Section 12.
85.
85. Section 13.
8.
8. Section 14. This person comes from the longest run. I hope you have your Fitbit clocked up.
14.
Section 14 is
13.
13 votes. Section 15.
45.
45. Section 16.
22.
22. Section 17.
25.
25. Section 18.
18.
18. Section 19.
12.
12. The stage. 7 on the stage. Registration.
3.
3. And still nobody in the cafeteria. Okay, so in the affirmative 926, all those against referring the motion or the article to the planning board, please raise your cards. Charlie? have count? We have count?
Three, four. Anybody know?
Any no's over here?
Any no's? Okay, four. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you very much. Are we ready? Auditorium ready?
Auditorium ready? Auditorium ready?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready to hear the no's in this circumstance. And we'll start with Mr. Smith, number 1.
14.
14. Number 2.
59.
59. Number 3.
47.
47. Section 4.
37.
37. Section 5.
58.
58. Section 6.
105.
105. Section 7.
48.
48. Section 8.
86.
86. Section 9.
105.
105. Section 10.
46.
46. Section 11.
38.
38. Section 12.
47.
47. Section 13.
36.
36. Section 14.
45.
Section 15.
66.
Section 16.
39.
Section 17.
24.
Section 18.
25.
Section 19.
36.
And the stage.
Stage is 4.
The stage is 4. Registration?
1.
1. And still ghosts in the cafeteria. So we have... Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've just seen a little, whether you know it or not, we've just seen a little legislative sausage making. And we're about to see a little bit more legislative sausage making. I'm going to defer to Mr. Salisbury, who has a motion.
Mr. Moderator, having seen this motion fail, to refer to the planning board, I have an alternative motion which I'd like to offer and then speak to. And that other motion that...
Please do. We'll wait for a second. I will give you the courtesy of an explainer.
Okay. The motion I wish to offer is to withdraw this article from this meeting.
The motion is made and seconded. It's a very proper article, happens all the time in town meetings. And I'll give Mr. Salisbury, considering perhaps the confusion about what just happened, a bit of a primer for all of us.
Mr. Moderator, I'm sorry to confuse the meeting. It was clear after the passage of Article 1 that, in fact, the major decision of tonight had been made. And it was locked in by a reconsideration vote that says it has been made finally. Article 2, which in fact attempted to put the same language into the zoning bylaw, was going to require a 2/3 vote in order to pass. By the vote from the first article, it was evident that it was going to fall somewhat short of that 2/3 majority, and therefore would most likely fail. If it were to fail, it probably could not come back to a town meeting within a period of 2 years, and I would suspect that otherwise it might be wise to think about it after the air has cleared a bit from tonight's trauma, and it might find itself a proper article in either the May town meeting or a May town meeting a year from now after some discussion had taken place. My attempt to refer it to the planning board was to do that. For those who are if you've got nothing else to read, there's a book called Town Meeting Time, which is on the moderator's bedside table, I'm sure.
I'll be renting copies if anybody would like them.
As it was by mine. And section 53, footnote 10, says the best way to accomplish this is to refer it to the planning board or some other board, which makes it quite clear that the meeting is taking no action. It's also likely to be, by reasonable courts, to be interpreted as taking no action if it is allowed to be withdrawn, but that's not quite so sure. I tried what I thought was the proper way. I'm sorry if I confused folks in doing it. The motion now is clearly to accomplish the same thing by saying, let us withdraw from this meeting Article 2, since it's not likely to go anywhere, and perhaps withdraw some other articles too and end our night. Thank you.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, a motion has been made and seconded. I'm going to try a voice vote if you don't mind. All those in favor of the motion to withdraw the article, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. All right, no. Okay, I have a reasonable report from the other room with similar notion, and I will declare that the article was withdrawn and with a 2/3 vote, without objection. No objection? Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, the evening's not done. We're going to go on to Article 3, but I think we're going to make some quick dispatch, and it would be really courteous of people to stay until the end and hear some thanks. Article 3, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, the Board of Selectmen met earlier this evening and determined that if Article 1 passed, that we would withdraw or make a motion to withdraw Article 3 because the tone of town meeting had clearly been heard in regards to...
A motion has been made and seconded to withdraw Article 3. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, Article 3 is withdrawn. Article 4.
Mr. Moderator, the Planning Board met earlier during an open meeting and voted that if Article 1 or 2 passed, that the Planning Board would recommend withdrawal of Articles 4 and 5.
So there is a motion to withdraw Article 4. Is there a second? Is there objection? I will declare Article 4 withdrawn. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, the Planning Board in an earlier meeting voted that if Article 1 passed, that the Planning Board would recommend withdrawal of Article 5.
The motion has been made and seconded. Do I hear objection? I hear no objection. Article 5 is withdrawn. Article 6. Ladies and gentlemen, please, Let's provide some courtesy to everybody else.
Mr. Moderator.
Dr. Goldstein.
We request...
Your name, please.
Jeff Goldstein, 224 Foster Street, North Andover. We request withdrawal of Article 6.
Thank you, sir. A motion has been made to withdraw Article 6. It's been seconded. Do I hear objection? I hear no objection. Article 6 has been withdrawn. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your participation at this meeting. I want to give, and I'm going to ask your courtesy for 15 seconds. I want to give particular thanks to the town clerk, who is my partner in this effort. Real appreciation to her staff and to the volunteers, most particularly to Jeff Coco, who did yeoman's work. To our town IT director, Chris McClure, Community Access, Brian Frazier and his crew, and the many, many people who endeavored to make this as painless an experience as possible. There is a final article, and I recognize Mr. DeGolagero.
Mr. Moderator, I move that this 2018 special town meeting stand adjourned until Wednesday, January 31st, 2018, in North Andover. No, we're not doing that. Mr. Moderator, I move that this 2018 special town meeting be dissolved. Yes, that's...
The motion is made to dissolve the meeting. It's been seconded. I doubt there is objection. Hearing none, the meeting is dissolved. I thank you all for your kind participation. Thank you.